Hi Nichols faculty. This is a short video to help you get acquainted with our new tool of Adobe Connect. First, to get started, go to nichols.adobeconnect.com. Make sure that you don't put the www in front, and it will take you to our Nichols Adobe Connect account. Now, to log in, look at this little grid. You'll need to log in with the email address listed here for your college. For example, if you're in University College, you'd go to uconline1 at nichols.edu. Psychology would go to psychonline at nichols.edu. If you don't know which one you should be using, just contact myself or your dean to make sure you're using the correct account. After you put that in your username, this email address in the username, the password is always going to be password. I'm going to log into my administrator account to show you all of the tools that we're going to be using. So once you're in our Nichols Adobe Connect account, the first thing you'll want to do is go ahead and create a meeting. Now what I do is set up a new meeting for each of the courses I'm teaching. For example, if I were teaching EDTL 511, I would put that as my meeting name. You also want to make sure that you put EDTL 511 here as your custom URL. Otherwise, Adobe Connect is going to generate some random numbers to put here, and it's going to be more difficult for your students to log in. So all your students need to know when joining your Adobe Connect meeting is this custom URL. So it will always be nichols.adobeconnect.com/ and then your meeting name. As I said earlier, I set up one meeting name for each course that I'm teaching. So I can have every Monday night a meeting for EDTL 511 in this meeting room. I don't need to set up a new meeting room for each time I meet, just a unique one for each course that I teach. I usually up the duration to the maximum time I might be on. I would never bore them longer than 3 hours. And then I change the access to anyone that has the URL for this meeting can enter the room. That way we don't have to worry about students not being able to access it. There are ways that you can include audio conferencing in case a student doesn't have internet access, but I haven't had to use that just yet. So I'll push next. Oop, and that was already in use. And I will go ahead and put anyone with the URL can enter the meeting. Push next. And we're just going to say next on this one because we're not going to invite anyone specific, and I'll finish it. So once you have entered in your meeting room, you can open it up and see what a meeting room will look like. When you want to have your first meeting, I suggest getting on into your meeting room about 15 minutes before you have told your students. That way they won't get nervous if they try to sign in and nobody's there. So there are a couple of terms to learn with Adobe Connect. The first one is a pod. Each one of these sections is called a pod. So right now we have a sharing pod, a video pod, an attendees pod, and a chat pod. The second term that I want to share with you is layouts. Pods make up different layouts. For example, I'm on the sharing layout right now. If I change to the discussion layout, you'll see that the pods themselves change. Again, I'll change to the collaboration layout, and the pods again change. Now you don't have to use one of these 3 set ones. You can always go to pods and add, say I wanted a poll, and add a new pod within whatever layout you're in. So I can say, what is your favorite color? and I can open this pod for students to see, and as the students vote, you'll be able to see the percentages. And if you want everybody to see the percentages, you can broadcast the results. So that's a very neat pod that I use a lot. So I'm going to hide that pod. Now the most important pods in my opinion are your webcam pod and your sharing pod. So let's start with this sharing pod. You can choose to share your screen. You can choose to share a document, which can be a PowerPoint, a PDF, a Word document, an Excel document, or you can choose to share a whiteboard, which may be helpful in a lot of subjects. So I'm going to say right now I want to share my screen. So it asks you, what would you like to share? I'm going to share my entire desktop. So now I would broadcast whatever is on my desktop to the students. So the students could now see my beautiful children. I could also take them to Moodle and show them their assignments on Moodle. I could show them Blackboard, Wikipedia, anything on my screen that I would like to show them, I could show them with that. So back to my pods and my layout. The next important pod that I think is your webcam sharing. Students want to see us most of the time. So you'll have to say start sharing. And there I am in my office. And stop your webcam when you want to. Now, common problems that people have are students can't see them, can't hear them, audio and video problems. So these are the buttons up here that you want to make sure that you have set how you want them. You want to make sure that your sound is on, it's green. You want to make sure that your audio is on, again green. You want to make sure that your webcam is on, again making it green. Students can raise their hands. They can ask you to speak louder, softer, laughter, applause. Whenever they push one of these buttons, down here under participants, you'll be able to see what they have said in the corner. You'll see the little icon of applause or slow down next to their name with participants. Okay, I'm going to turn off my webcam. Another nice pod is the chat pod. So the entire class can have access to your chat pod. They can ask specific questions while you're giving content lessons, and you don't have to answer them right away. I usually take a 5 to 7 minute break every time I'm lecturing, and I stop every 5 or so minutes and I'll look at the chat pod and I'll answer any questions that are going on there. One last thing on the sharing, let me show you how to share a document. You have to upload your files to share before sharing them. So this might be if you have a large file, such as a PowerPoint, something like that, you may want to upload the file before you start. So I'm going to share a picture right here. And now the students are seeing the pictures, they're still seeing your other pods as well. So they would see your PowerPoint or whatever else you were sharing right there. Okay. Under meeting, you can also record your meeting for students who are not able to attend live. You can go to full screen. There are also ways to allow students to become the presenters. That way, if you have group projects, group presentations, things like that, students can make themselves the presenters. Of course, their computer will have to have high-speed internet, and they will also have to have an access to a webcam and a microphone. Many students have these on their laptops. If you are a techie sort of person, there's also an app for your iPad for Adobe Connect. It is not enabled to host a meeting on your iPad just yet, but students can watch a meeting or participate in a meeting from their iPad. So let's just review very quickly on how to set up your first online class via Adobe Connect. We would go to nichols.adobeconnect.com. And I'm going to back up and log out, and I'm going to log in as one of you. Remember that you need to log in with whatever email address you're assigned here, depending on your college. I'm going to go ahead and test out the psychology one because I just created that one. Password is always password. The first thing you want to do is create a meeting. I create one meeting for each of the courses that I am teaching. Looks like I didn't do the administrative privileges there correctly. Let me log out. I apologize for that. So you create a meeting. Remember that you would like to do the custom URL so that when you give your students the web address to join the meeting, it's not random numbers here. It will always be nichols.adobeconnect.com/whatever your meeting name is. Again, remind your students, don't put the www in there. You also need to change access to anyone who has the URL for the meeting can enter the room. After doing that, you enter your meeting room and you have all of your pods pop up. Post on Moodle the URL for the meeting room and you should be good to go. So I hope this was a good introduction for you guys, and I hope that you find this as a useful tool in your online learning classes, and let me know if you need any assistance on it. Have a great day.